This was perhaps the most daring and unexpected operation in modern military history. Referred to by some as Russia's Pearl Harbor, it was the most devastating attack on the Russian Air Force since World War II. Ukrainian special forces attacked enemy airfields thousands of kilometers behind the front lines. The Kremlin lost a third of its strategic potential. The attack took place on the eve of another round of negotiations in Istanbul, which, as expected, brought no breakthroughs. These images stunned the world. The attack itself was shocking, but its scale and the way it was carried out were downright impressive. These recordings show Russian airfields with strategic bombers, the most valuable machines in the Kremlin's air fleet. One by one, they are engulfed in flames, all without endangering the life of a single Ukrainian soldier. The entire operation, called Spiderweb, began over a year and a half ago. It was prepared by Ukrainian special forces. Containers with small, hidden explosive drones were smuggled into Russia. The containers were sent by a logistics company deep into the country to addresses in the immediate vicinity of Russian air bases. At a predetermined time, the roofs of the containers opened automatically and, to the horror of bystanders, drones flew out from inside and attacked the airports.
Загалом в операції було використано 117 дронів і відповідна кількість операторів дронів працювали. Вражено 34% стратегічних носіїв крилатих ракет на аеродромах базування. Діяли наші люди на території різних російських регіонів.
The operation caused outrage in Russia. Among Ukraine's allies, feelings are mixed. On the one hand, this is possibly the most impressive sabotage operation in human history. But on the other, it reveals a serious security gap in most military bases worldwide.
I'm sure a lot of air forces around the world are looking at this with some apprehension. I mean, this has been a threat vector to air forces on their bases, so short-ranged, large-scale use of short-ranged UAVs from shipping containers, essentially, has been something that's been talked about as a threat in defense circles for many years now. This is the first time we've seen it used kinetically and in pretty spectacular fashion. The simple fact is that a lot of Western air forces as well would be deeply vulnerable to a similar attack.
The Kremlin will feel these losses heavily. The bombers were being prepared for another massive strike on Ukraine. The destruction and damage of a third of these airplanes may be difficult for Moscow to recover from. There is also the psychological effect. First, there is a fear of further similar operations, which is why miles-long traffic jams of trucks have formed, each one being checked by the authorities at border crossings and between regions. Second, there are image issues. These machines were the apple of Putin's eye.
By far the most significant attack that Ukraine has mounted to date against Russia's long-range strike forces. The long-range aviation force, as part of the Russian aerospace forces, so their bomber fleet, is extremely heavily tasked.
The attack was intended to be a show of force by Ukraine just before the next round of negotiations in Istanbul. Until the last moment, it was unclear whether the negotiations would even take place, as Moscow had not disclosed any actual demands.
If the Istanbul meeting brings nothing, that clearly means strong new sanctions are urgently needed from the EU's 18th package and from the United States, specifically the strongest sanctions President Trump promised.
Washington is already working on sanctions against the Kremlin. After the visit of U.S. senators to Kyiv, Putin's tactics have met sunlight.
We saw credible evidence of a summer, early fall invasion, a new offensive by Putin. He's playing the game at the peace table. He's preparing for more war. And I think the Senate is fed up with Putin. The American people see Putin as unreasonable. They see Ukraine is trying. President Trump has made that distinction real.
Diplomacy-only methods seem to have reached their limits. There was no breakthrough in Istanbul, and after only an hour-long meeting, both delegations broke off the talks. Now it seems that the West must make the next move to maintain the credibility of its threats to jeopardize Moscow's interests.